I don't want to do a lot of talking here. We have these esteemed panelists here that are going to illuminate for us what the design studio of the future may or may not look like.
Is this thing on? Good.
So I prepared a few questions, and I vetted them all across the panelists, and we're going to go. We're going to talk a lot about technology and the impact of technology, I think, which is a given. I should say this is very important to me personally. Being the chair at CCS, I have to prepare our students for their careers after graduation. So I need to know what they need to know before they actually become professionals. So let's get right into it. One of the big questions that I get from a lot of parents, especially parents of kids who are really into working with their hands, which is a little bit more rare these days than it used to be, but some kids want to be clay modelers. So the first question I have for you guys is, what is the future relevance of clay in our field, and how much do you see that still having the importance that it's had in the past and currently? So
I can start that one.
Go for it, Mike.
Yeah, we've just sort of commissioned 3 new studios and one massive one here in Warren, in Detroit. And if it's not committed to clay, then I've got a white elephant on my hands. We have basically a massive hall that with a function that is all centered around clay modeling and the value of the 3D property. I mean, after all, we're selling ultimately a 3D product, something that gets people excited. It's visceral when you see it. And the designers need to react in the same way as a customer does. Doing that on a screen, not in my generation.
Mm-hmm. Good answer.
Dave, you want to build on that?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think I can jump to your other question. That, by the way, Pete Montero said I'm wearing techno blue, so I just wanted to shout that out. Yeah, I think that. I'm prompting your other question because we went from doing mock-ups to just doing the clay, and you just wrap the clay because you can wrap it and you can see what it looks like, as an actual car later, and you don't have to interrupt the process by making old data into a mock-up or something. But clay, it's just I think it was way ahead of its time. At the time it came out, it just is. I think. One way to do it, and I was thinking about this. These are the things I think about at a bar. I was thinking that.
Of course you do.
We should figure out how to digitize clay. And I don't mean scan it. I mean the clay should have some nanobots in it or something. Yeah. So as you sculpt it, it can give you data right away or something. I don't know. Phil, where's Phil? Dassault should be working on this, I think. Okay. Anyway. But I think that Mike's absolutely right. It's the nuance and the feel, and especially the clay modelers. They're saving us a lot of times. They know what they're doing. So kids coming up, we played with Lego. We played with I don't know Play-Doh, whatever it is. I think it's not just clay modeling. It's the aptitude and the knowledge that's gained from using your hands and understanding 3D surface.
Mm-hmm. So there's a message, Paul. In CCS and all the other colleges, we need to focus on not just the sketching, but teaching kids or the kids that come through how to take what the idea and turn it into 3D. Otherwise, we spend a whole bunch of time
fixing it,
fixing what comes out.
Yeah, Ralph, you want to add to that?
Yeah. So for about 10 years, I was flying to Italy where we use plaster.
Yeah.
We use clay on the interiors and plaster still, and it's a disaster. So clay is the way to go. We slowly converted them over to clay a little bit more. But in the U.S., we used to have about 150 clay modelers in the mid-'90s to now, today, less than 50.
Oh, wow.
That was out of not our choice. We just could not find a town. They would age out, retire out. And we went through a program to try to find, clay school with CCS. We started a clay school and had some limited success. But you're right. The career isn't as sexy, let's say, as it might have been. People don't even know it exists, right? So we need a medium balance because right now there's too few clay modelers. So I think, yes, the world needs more, especially if you're doing what you're doing over there. And we've gone through cycles where we thought, we're just going to use the digital thing, mill it out, and then the caliber happened. So we don't want to do that again.
So are there any journalists here?
So the clay modelers have a way
There you
of helping us get that surface, that last 10%. So I think they're here to stay. Maybe not as what it used to be, but they're here to stay.
Joel?
Yeah, I'll just jump in with an anecdotal experience. As COVID hit, Friday, March 13th, we all went home and went pure digital. We did virtual reality. Everyone set up in their homes, in their offices, with all the goggles and digital tools. And the first time we came back, so the clay modelers were the first folk to go back into the studio because they are so hands-on. So they started milling back the digital surfaces that we had approved in all the high-tech gear. And as the design team was able to go back, going into the studio to see what is now the new Mustang, as we were developing it back then, saw stuff in the clay that never ever picked up in the digital headsets or even on screen. There's so much missing from digital to physical, as Mike said about, it's a visceral experience to walk around and experience the surfaces. Clay's not going to go away for us either. We are doing a lot more digital, of course, but then we're hand refining in clay, and that's a absolute necessity.
Feasibility.
Yeah, we use the digital, we use the virtual to accelerate theme, to get through alternatives quicker. But then you turn it over to the clay, and the clay is where the artistry comes in. Everything's from just pure craft of the sculptors themselves to ultimately the validation. We don't sign anything off on the tube. It's all physical, and that's interiors and exteriors. And I'm going to give a shout out to the Macomb College. We pick up a lot of kids through Macomb.
Sure.
Thank you.
We pick up kids through there because it's a quick way into the business. Once they're into a company and they want to pursue a career perhaps in full-on design, then we can support them, and it's a nice introduction to the business. Not everyone has to do a degree to get into what.
Is it an associate's degree, Mike?
Yeah.
It is
No. It's
just a technical
certificate.
class?
Yeah.
Continuing
2
ed.
years.
But I guess it seems like the clay itself, it's evolved, so it's not that it's not digital. So it used to be you had, like, clay modeler would transfer it over and do symmetry and all that, and that's all digital. It's all overnight. You come in and the whole car's done. You're like, hey, that's pretty cool. And then you start manipulating it, but it's not like it's not part of the repertoire of tool. Even if it's VR and you're looking at it, then you can adjust the clay to that. But I do think people are the first thing is, well, it's clay model, it's old, outdated, but it's not. It's literally has made its way into the whole process of digital.
So we're starting to get into the next topic I wanted to cover, which is VR and AR. As you guys noted, as you guys noted, one of the big things that pushed VR into the studios with such relevancy was the COVID pandemic, and we did the same thing at CCS. But now I did a sort of informal survey yesterday, just texting a bunch of friends who are working in the studios. And I'm hearing that at most, designers can be working from home maybe 1 day a week these days. For the most part, people are back to work, back to the studio. So I guess VR is not so much being used to communicate across distances, but in the creative process itself. And very soon we're going to have Vision Pro. So do you guys foresee walking into the studio and seeing all your designers with headsets on soon, or are there still going to be designers sketching on paper?
No, they're a pain in the neck to wear. I mean, until wearing them is fun, and the visual is as compelling as seeing something live. They won't take off. But the reality is, like I said before, we use them, and we use VR, we use virtual. We do communicate across the world because it makes it easy. But the reality is we use it to accelerate the early part of the process. Kids are sketching, or we're all sketching on tablets these days, and that's so you're already into the system, and you can validate the software that'll pull it through, and you can get a quick model. You can tell your story, you can create the vision quickly. But when it comes down to it, you still have to validate in 3D. The new studio is all set up to make the, if you like, the clay model, it's Buddha sitting in the middle of the floor. Yeah. And we've set up the studio in a way that the designers, the sculptors, digital and physical, are all together. But we've allowed the program team and the engineering folks to be in the studio in real time. And don't tell anyone, but it's a nice way of controlling the process. You know, the design then is the center of the business, and everyone can see what's going on, and we control.
The clay is the heartbeat.
So, yes. So in our case, same type of thing. During COVID, our designers asked us if, hey, should we invest? And we did. And actually, Lou right here is spearheading this relationship with Art Center and now CCS a little bit as well. With Gravity Sketch. We found this company called Gravity Sketch, and we've already on our 4th generation of these things. The first ones were terrible, with the cables sticking out the back, and they did weigh about 10 pounds. The new ones are incredible. You can see through them. They're actually quite comfortable. They're battery operated now. And we actually had our chairman of the company and our CEO review a future product using them, and we were like, this is a big test. Is he comfortable? And you're right. It's not good enough to say this car, the surface is good, but theme to theme or volume, we're starting to get to the point where you have some of the buck, a physical foam buck that he can sit in while wearing these things and look around and see the interior of the car. It's extremely convincing. We actually are looking at doing clinics with it. So like everything else, we're going to feather it into our process, and I'm willing to keep buying the new technology as fast as we can. The kids want to use it as one of the tools in their tool case. They're not going to rely on it. I don't want to see, to your point, walk in a studio and see a bunch of VR. It'll be really weird. So, I've seen that movie. It doesn't end well.
Yeah, we're similar in that regard. We've got Gravity Sketch going on. We've got a sponsored project with CCS in collaboration with Gravity Sketch. I think we've been pioneering Gravity Sketch. It's doing really, really wondrous things in our advanced strategic world to really get to that model quickly. Of course, we're still going to prove it out in the physical. Sometimes we do foam, sometimes we do clay. But the younger students that are coming in and the younger designers are really adapting to Gravity Sketch as well as Blender. We, of course, have Alias, Autodesk, Alias Sub D that we use, which is pretty ubiquitous throughout the industry. But it's a really interesting element tool, how the younger generation is embracing it, and how we're getting much richer dialogue in the design reviews and critiques. So it's a pretty exciting thing, and maybe I'm jumping the gun here, but AI is coming on, and although it's still in its infancy, we're lacing that into all these other digital tools that we're currently using.
Yeah, it seems like if they like using it, use it. You can do colorways, you can do things really fast with VR, and across the pond, you're literally somewhere else, and you're looking at versions within a model, and here's the red car, here's the blue, whatever it is. So you can actually, same thing, Ralph, we do like a buck, but there's no design in it, and then you can just look at it. So you can hold your hands on the steering wheel, you can touch things, so you're not out in the open because you look stupid when people are filming you. But I mean, literally, if it's a good tool, let's just use it, whatever it is. So I think as people learn it and learn how to use it with Gravity Sketch or Blender, any of those, embrace it and do it. Get the latest tech, like you said.
It's all tools.
For sure. I think.
So quick poll, when was the last time each of you had a headset on?
Tuesday?
Tuesday?
Well, it's flying Tuesday, last week.
2.5 weeks ago, maybe?
Yeah, about a week ago.
Yeah, yep, so it's happening.
And we use it for packaging. We literally, I'll tell a quick anecdotal story, that we had the ARX, we did the race car in our studio during COVID with clay, thank you. And literally, we had the drivers come in, Philippe and Ricky Taylor, and they got the VR goggles on and sat in the car to see where the mirror placement should be and how much, like, we could bring the windshield, all that stuff. So I think there's a lot of uses for it that are like sexy externally that people are going to go, ooh, wow, that's cool. So, use it to whatever the advantage is.
Right.
Okay. It's interesting that, just a thing I'd add, what's happening, again, I don't know about the rest, but certainly happening with us. Because we got into headsets and the virtual very quickly, and we've been updating the tools so that all the immersive stuff has actually run out of design, and it's being pushed into the rest of the company as a result, everywhere from us to manufacturing. And it's being embraced as aggressively there because it's good for doing things.
It is.
Virtual
garage.
You can. It's great for interiors.
Build your car.
Yeah. Great for interiors, great for assembly, great for virtual quality and stuff like that. But it just lacks something, particularly for exteriors.
They just don't look cool yet.
So,
They're made of little pixels. That's the trouble.
so you're kind of touching on one of the other topics we were going to talk about. That's virtual prototypes and digital twins. I mean, do you really need
Digital twins.
do you really need a very expensive physical fabricated prototype? You have the clay model, and then you have all the data, which you can see via a headset. So
I think you've heard a few times that the tool for the purpose.
Yeah.
Where it applies, you use the virtual, but if it doesn't work.
okay.
Yeah, you hear the word speed a lot, so it's about that, but also cost. We are definitely skipping a few iterations and relying on digital more and more, and it is saving real tangible money.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And manpower, not just
yeah.
resource of the model itself, but manpower.
Yeah, it's like, so many of the younger generation that's really embraced the digital tool set. They're building those models, and that's what we're milling out to get started in full-size clays.
Yeah.
So that's really the big head start in many cases for us.
Okay, here's the big elephant in the room that I think everybody's talking about, and that's artificial intelligence. There's a lot of versions out there for visualization, for creating 2D or 3D imagery. And then there's AI that will enhance your own skill sets, like Viscom, which was actually created by one of the recent graduates of College for Creative Studies. So lots of debate about what this is going to do to the job market, because it does appear to be extremely easy to use. What are your guys' feelings? Are you using it in the studio? And how does that impact the kind of portfolios that you want to see from colleges that would like to work for your companies?
If you want.
Okay, I was going to say I just had this discussion with a journalist, so it's fresh in my mind. But as I was speaking to them, I'm struggling with the same thing, and we all seen that movie, doesn't it? Well, too. But
Yeah.
The sketching part is really 5% of what a designer does. It really is. It's what's sexy. It's what you see. What everyone talks about. But it's a very small piece of it because it's the negotiations, the development. The AI cannot do that, right? It can. It's almost if you have a team of five. Yeah, you have a team of 5 designers. It might be the 6th designer. A little fun. Almost a distraction or something. At the end of the day, it aggregates the past in a way. So the Viscom of it impresses me a lot. I mean, some of it is indistinguishable, if not better, than any human could do. The creative piece of it is not quite there. But we are looking at, in Europe especially, we have a team, we set up a dedicated team of designers that are feeding the AI with our stuff, not internet stuff, but our own future stuff. That way you're getting the future, not aggregating the past. So it has a place, and I think it's awesome. It's going to be very fascinating. I wish we could put a stamp on stuff and digitally find out the sources so kids don't kid us.
Yeah.
I'm worried about watching a portfolio and having to discern what's AI and what's
NFT.
Yeah.
But it's a tool. I mean,
Yeah.
it's this. AI is kind of a misnomer because it's not intelligent.
Yeah.
So it's a tool that, to your point, aggregates the past, and or it's as sensitive as what you load in. What you load it with, it'll give back to you, but in spades. We've got people running with it. I know we've had the conversation with CCS about, because you've got kids coming in with, generating portfolios using AI, and the test in the end is whether this is the step is whether the designer has done it themselves and therefore can talk intelligently, replicate it, help it into a 3D model, or whether it's just all something they built from a model in the computer. So it's a tool, and we have, like everything else, we have to embrace it. It's stupid to avoid it.
It's a huge topic in California, of course, with the actor strike and the writer's strike. Because, and it's exactly that, what both of you just said is that the actors are afraid that they're going to take their work that they've already done and create something new from their work that's old. And so I think that's what's happening, but I it's a great tool. It's just, it's the actual vetting of which one is good and bad, because they're shitting out all these, like 1,000 of them. You're like, man, those are terrible, except that one's pretty cool. So somebody still has to have the knowledge to understand to pick it, and then develop it. So that, I think, I don't think it's as scary as it seems, because it is the past, but if it does become the future, then we're doomed, Ralph. You saw that movie.
It's over.
But I think that it is based on factual data. So
Some finance guy somewhere is like, ooh, get rid of the whole design
we
department.
can save a lot of money, and I got to sit here.
Or the marketers.
I didn't see the movie, but I read that
anyway,
book. But I do think it's from a hiring standpoint and a school standpoint, it's an issue of, did you do your own work? That's always been there in schools. It's like, did you do your own work to get your portfolio done to get in?
Unfortunately, plagiarism is
all
still
the
an
time.
issue, and
Yeah.
now we have this.
Yeah.
That's why the craft is important.
Yeah.
There you go.
So Dave, you brought up a good point. Being able to pick a sketch as well as develop that sketch, whether it's if you generated it or a machine generated it. Paul, coming back to your point about what do we need from the schools, we still need that innate ability to draw, create lines, understand what lines mean, proportion, balance,
What's good
the
and bad.
whole holistic design bundle about what is good and bad, but then be able to execute that.
Yep.
Because at the moment, machines aren't executing it.
Yeah.
And there, again, it's this, you're divorced from the physical element, going back, Mike, to your point at the beginning about people are buying the physical vehicle.
Yeah.
They're not buying a digital experience.
It has to look good.
That's
Well, and I
that's
think
what the schools need to continue developing is the
it's-
ability to go from
Yeah.
idea into the physicals.
I mean, it seems innovative, but it's not really innovative. It's
Yeah.
based on the past. So.
It's a tool.
Yeah.
It's a tool. It doesn't have any creative judgment. So we still have to have designers and creative people who apply
Because we
judgment.
want to keep our jobs. That's why we're
Right.
But the AI companies are hiring probably designers to improve
Yeah.
it, and it will be,
Sure.
we have to respect it. It's,
And if it works,
Here to
like,
stay, so.
try it. Yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah. For the record, at CCS, we have a lot of restrictions on its use.
Yeah.
It cannot be used for designing per se as we understand it in terms of creating the design themes. We can use it for creating concept and storyboards. If you're looking for a 40-something woman with 3 kids, standing by a minivan, AI can generate that really quickly. So we're allowing it for that purpose, and also abstract form generation. If you need some inspiration beyond what you can find, visually around you, maybe AI can help with generating an abstract form that you can then draw from. I'm not a panelist here, so I don't want to do all the talking, but the other critical thing, though, is my contention is you need the traditional study of industrial design and transportation design in order to really develop your eye to the
Still gotta
extent
ride a
you
bike.
can pick the sketches,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
If you don't study it in the sort of hardcore in the trenches way that we've all done in this room, then how do you develop your sense of aesthetics and abilities to pick a sketch?
Joel said proportion.
Yeah.
Start there.
Okay, so one last question, I think, and then we'll wrap it up if that's okay. So the location of design studios, we have
Incredibly important.
we have representatives from the motherships here, and then we have representatives from if Honda has a mothership in the United States, it's definitely your studio, Dave. But we all know the headquarters is back in Wako, Japan. So, how important is the location and the interior space? And Mike, you and Ralph, you guys, or sorry, not Ralph, but Joel, you guys are developing new design centers right now. So, how are those considerations taken into account?
I think, like I said at the start, we've committed to the physical part of the business. The buildings, we've got 3 new ones, and Pasadena is being built up right now, which is the biggest studio that we had in North Hollywood. The studio in the UK, and then the big in Warren. And they're all centered around being able to see and create and keep the physical as well as the digital, and keep people comfortable and happy and engaged. There's a lot of talk about the stuff we turn out and what we do, but frankly, these days, if you can't entertain people and keep them happy, you've got no business. So they're all around that.
True.
And that's been kind of the mission behind the new 2 million square foot design center Ford is building right now on the campus. 6 studios, 8 surface plates in each studio, massive power walls, digital micro LED walls in each studio. But what we're doing is a 25-75% rule, where 25% of the space is dedicated to really focusing in on the work that you do as an individual. And the 75% of the space is meant to be collaborative spaces. So a studio floor, for example, is a collaborative space. We'll have adjacent rooms outside of the studio to have meetings, but where the program teams, marketing, engineering, and design come together. So it's not disturbing the design studio per se, but it's all about bringing people together. And Mike, as you said, if you can keep people engaged and entertained and wanting to come into the office, and that's one of the real intents of our new building, is to get that collaboration going. It was so hard after COVID to bring people in. And it kind of remains a bit of an issue, quite frankly, today. Not so much on the design side, but in other departments. But it's those synergies when people are working together that you really get those sparks of genius and the collaboration to get these programs through the system. If people are sitting on a phone, walking the dog, taking a meeting, they're just disengaged, right? So it's really important in what we're doing. We've got some amazing visualization rooms, amazing showroom and courtyard facility that's being built. So it's looking very, very promising in being able to bring people back together again.
I mean, of course, I'm in California and Tokyo, like split half, but
Yeah.
I think definitely Tokyo has like some cachet for people to recruit. But I think California, it's the advantage of it is right now not there, but you have the movie industry, you have a lot of industries that are, Silicon Valley is pretty close. So you have a lot of ability to recruit. It's also a lot more expensive. So if you're looking for, work-life balance, you probably aren't going to get it there from a big house or a 1 million square foot design studio or whatever. Anyway, but I think that ultimately, with the work-life balance, and I think it's become really important to our company, is the hybrid system of have some flexibility that they could stay home. But the end of the day, we don't even, designers have desks, but they are out on the floor in front of the clay, and they just get like card tables, and everybody sketches on these card tables, right? You've been there, Paul.
Yeah.
And it's right in front of the model, and there's engineers and there's designers, and we all just sit there and it's real time. So you just go, yeah, that looks stupid. Why are you doing that? And we change it or whatever. But I think that the advantage of leaving and going to the beach is pretty good, I guess, for an attractive kind of thing. So
Rub it in.
yeah, sorry.
So
Are you guys using a lot of?
once a month or something?
I was going to say,
Dave, sorry.
No, finish.
Go ahead, Ralph.
no, finish.
Okay, I was just going to ask Dave, because there's the distance between Ohio and Torrance. Or is there a lot of VR or AR?
There's a
being used?
gigantic difference between. No, just kidding. The thing is that when we have our virtual reality team. So we actually built not as big, but a whole VR studio that's used by Japan and by Ohio, and they'll come use ours. But Ohio's talking about building one now, and Waco, they're building the same thing so you can replicate it everywhere. But we're kind of the tip of the spear for any of the new technology or what's coming down the pipe for that stuff. But I think it literally becomes, you know, if you're hiring people from school, but they didn't know they knew how to do that stuff. Because, you know, our HMI, we're hiring web designers and we're hiring, you know, graphic design, all kinds of people, and PhDs. So you don't know. And then once they get immersed in the design business, they become like, wow, like I approach things different now by thinking that way. And it's not the other way around. It's more that we're influencing them to do more creative stuff. So
Thanks, Dave.
Yeah, so in my case, I have, for some reason, 32 of my design staff here today.
wow.
They must be really hungry.
Get to work. God, what are you doing?
Not much happening today in
Free
Silver
days.
Hills.
Please ignore what they just said about their fancy-ass studios. But our place is relative.
They didn't say fancy, they said big.
Millions of dollars in square feet, and who knows? Probably have a Google-type RC car competition place. But our building is obviously a little younger. You know, built in '91, relative to Ford and GM at the time. I know you have that amazing place in California coming up. But for us, we've been trying to do continuous improvement. I think it was 2015. When did we do it? Yeah, we did a pretty sizable makeover. We blew the walls down. We created these little bathtubs, contemporary furniture. So that was one thing. And recently we added a video wall, a state-of-the-art giant voodoo lounge, we call it. So yeah, we don't have we used to have a California studio, and in Brazil I did the same thing. We did a pretty substantial revamp of the Brazilian studio. So we do feel the age of the building, but try not to make it about the building. What we can't do with the facility, we try to do in culture. We try to create a fun atmosphere. We do a lot of fun stuff. We use our courtyard as a cars and coffee, as literally a cornhole competition, you name it. We do everything we can to make it a fun place to come to work in. And we are definitely seeing people come back to work willingly. And my favorite thing we do all year is the Halloween Spooktacular.
Nice.
So we have a competition, and the designers turn out, they make phenomenal costumes. So stuff like that. I know that's not really going to help the next car look amazing, but it does, that family connection, I think goes a long way. So.
Yeah, it's people.
Good recruiting tool.
In our crusty ass building. So.
Well, it's the full circle. It's about
Giant Band-Aids.
We started talking about the value of the physical because it's what people buy.
Yeah,
that's right.
And ultimately, this is people creating that stuff.
And it better look good. That's right.
Yeah, no substitution.
If we
for
learned
face-to-face.
anything today,
Can I
it's
rent
plaster is a
space?
disaster. That's what I learned. Plaster is a disaster.
Okay, that pretty much wraps up the questions I had prepared, unless there's any questions from the audience that you'd like to talk about.
No? Okay, thanks.
All right, thank you guys. Thanks very much.